and welcome everybody to another episode of Small Biz Highlights. I am your host. My name is Tiffany Roman, and I'm so grateful to have you stop by and check us out today. For those of you that do not know, or for those of you that just simply forgot, yes, this is a pre recorded video. Unfortunately, I usually go live, but the military called me away for the month of March. So while I'm out, playing soldier, I took the time to pre-record episodes with the people that I had scheduled for the web show to make sure that their spot was not missed and their opportunity was not taken advantage of. So I am hoping that for those of you that are stopping by out to check this out as it broadcasts, that you are showing them just as much love as if I was here live. Remember to like, comment, share, let us know you were here, and let us know how we're doing. Let me know how it's going with these pre-recorded videos. This is definitely a new thing for me, so I'm hoping it goes without a glitch, but we all know how technology can be. So, a few things. Remember, this is 2021, proclaiming for everybody out there that this is your year, no matter what your dream is, whatever your goal is, whatever your situation is, no matter what you have planned for you, this year is going to be the year that you do it. I am proclaiming that for you out there, for everyone, um, putting it out into the universe, trying to send out positive vibes and just try to eliminate all the negativity from 2020 as much as possible. Trying to do as much as I can. So today I have the opportunity and the privilege to introduce you guys to a very nice gentleman. I met him on a networking call. I believe it was New Year's Day. Literally New Year's Day, I was on a networking event, guys. That's how serious I am about spreading the word about this show. So he was very nice and wanted to be featured. And of course, I said yes. So his name is Letroy Woods. And he's a broadcaster coach, has a really great podcast going on, and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to bring him on here so he can introduce himself and we can get this ball rolling. Hello, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Tiffany?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for, being just available to do this pre-recorded as opposed to live. I know it's a little bit different, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Just the opportunity to give your message, right? To help people get from here to there. And this is no better way to do it is through these platforms that you have online.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So, like I mentioned before, I always start the episode with one question. Sometimes it trips people up. Sometimes people get really philosophical with it. We'll see how you decide to go with it. But who are you? Help the people understand who you are as a person first before we dive into the business person.
That's a great question because I really kind of answered that question until about 3 years ago. But let me kind of pave up till 3 years ago. So, like yourself, on the other end, my dad was in the military. I once was going to join myself, but never did. Decided to take a different path. But growing up, we moved around every 2 to 4 years. And you talk about places like Tennessee, Hawaii, Colorado, Texas, Indiana. I know there's a few that I'm missing, but we moved everywhere until we got here to Utah. And
Okay.
didn't even know what Utah was. Didn't know it was predominantly Mormon here. Didn't even know what a Mormon was until we actually came here. And I remember they showed us this video. My dad came home with this video the military gave him. And he sat us down and talked about the mountains and like all the things that were great here about Utah. But culturally, it was very different when we came here because we were the only Black family in the neighborhood that we lived in. And it didn't really begin to become diverse until probably 15, 20 years ago. Got all the Californians come in here. There's a big Hispanic community here now. And so it was very different coming from Colorado, where there was a lot of diverse people. Or when we were in Hawaii, we lived on the base, there was a lot of different culture that
Yeah.
was involved in that. And so it was different coming here as a preteen and going through that whole process of people just being different, right? You kind of get used to it growing up in the military, but it's
Oh,
different when you don't
absolutely.
have the culture involved.
No, I absolutely agree with that. Definitely, as diverse as me growing up, my situation growing up was, um, it definitely got a lot more diverse in the military. Got to meet a lot more different cultures, get educated on what they were all about, what was okay to do around them, what wasn't. It was very educational, and I was very grateful for that. It's not something I would have gotten back home, to that extent, at least. So I'm sure it was the same for you.
Mhm. So I'll answer the other side of that question for you. Like, who are you?
Okay.
And so I feel it's a double-sided question because you can never know anything unless you know all of it, right? You know the entirety of what makes up whatever it is that you're asking. And so I grew up with a lot of stuff from my past that kind of defined who I thought I was. And so, that was moving around all the time. My sister being raped, me just kind of prematurely going out into the world, getting involved with drugs and alcohol and many different things. And that
Mm.
was my story. That's the story I was making up for myself. And so I went through my 20s, 30s, and almost my 40s with that same story. But then my defining moment happened 3 years ago, Tiffany, where the light bulb came on, the switch clicked on inside of me. And it's special because I think everybody has those opportunities, but not everybody sees them and actually makes a
Yeah.
decision on it. That knowing or that voice inside of you of you're being spoken to in a sense. It's not with words. And I think everyone could probably relate on some level what I'm talking about.
Oh,
But for
absolutely.
me, it was 3 years ago. And when you say, who am I? Like, who are you? I had to really think about that because who I thought I was the stuff, right? I was busy climbing the corporate ladder. I was busy chasing the cars and like making money to like buy stuff. And what ended up happening is I got involved in so much stuff outside of myself that who I thought I was isn't who I thought I was. And so I didn't have nothing left at the end of the day. And I was tired. I was tired. And so
Mhm.
like I had to make myself feel good. And so the things I'm doing today actually chose me. The work with broadcasting, the work with coaching, being involved in the Chamber of Commerce and all these other different community assets that we have. I realized if I want to do something that I just go do it. Like I don't need to actually go through a this linear process of getting from here to there, but I can actually do it at where I'm at right now. But 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to say that because it was suicide that actually changed my personal experience with it. That changed everything for me. And that's when the light bulb came on.
Oh,
And
wow.
when that happened, it felt like, and it sounds so cliche just to talk about it, right? Because you hear these like things all the time. You hear them in books and you hear them in like the like blockbuster movies and stuff, but something clicked. Like literally like a switch came on. My eyes began to see different. And for the first time, I felt my heart for the first time. And I decided that I wanted to live. And when I made that decision, everything around me changed. Like it was like
Mm.
something opened up inside of me. And this thing that I learned something, I found something inside myself, and I decided this is what I'm going to dedicate my life to. It's helping people save themselves from themselves. And so as I began to go through this process, because my life was falling apart pretty fast with like my marriage wasn't the best, my finances were in ruin, and I was just kind of headed in the wrong direction. And within a short time, little over 3 years later, today, like it turned around like night and day. And what I realized there's something inside of us. And that something actually makes everything happen. Like living from inside instead of outside is a whole nother world that people haven't like realized. It's not getting the car right or the nice trip or being around the people that make you feel good. Is this that thing that we're talking about? Because the nice car, why do we buy the nice car? For how it makes you feel. We're all
Right.
looking for validation, right? We're all looking to feel good about ourselves. But a lot of us are doing it in the wrong places. And we spend our whole lives in this cycle and we get to the end of our life never really truly living one day in our life because we were going for the wrong things. We were caring about the wrong stuff. And so that's what led me to you today. was I'm not afraid to make decisions anymore. I'm not afraid to live. And because of that, the whole world opened up to me. And I want to show people what that is if they're willing to look at themselves.
And that's really what your business is partially about. Well, mostly about. It's just in different platforms, I guess is the way to
Mhm.
say it. You start out by being a coach, but then you also are broadcasting great advice, hosting really great guests that offer amazing advice as well. Tell us more about your business. How does someone um I guess how does it all work? Do they reach out to you and they get like a consultation? What does it all involve?
So there's a few ways to reach me. And so like these things actually felt like everything I was looking for, I didn't realize was right in front of me the whole time. I didn't need to do this and then do this, then do this to get the thing I was looking for, but it was right there in front of me. I just couldn't see it because my awareness was about this big. And so I
Mm,
couldn't see what was to the left or to the right of me. But as I began to realize that I show up with me first, do that every day, I win. And when I win, all the stuff ends up showing up because of it. And so the broadcast showed up because I gave an event on mental health at one of the colleges. They had a business center. This was just right
mm.
before the COVID really took place. It was the very end of January, and it was on mental
Wow.
health. And I didn't realize like the state I live in is Utah, and we're scraping the bottom. Like our mental health and suicide here is like the worst in the US. But I gave a speech on it. It was called Mental Health Isn't Something Just Diagnosed by a Doctor. And it's something that very many people don't talk about. But because of that talk, it led to the broadcast. A couple months later, I got the opportunity to say, hey, do you want to do a broadcast for our community? And so I started the
Mm,
broadcast. And then next thing led to the next thing. I kept showing up with myself, having those conversations, learning how to talk, affirming my life as it is, not as it might happen, but as it already is. Learning to have gratitude, waking up. I know what it means to wake up now, just to like be happy for no reason. And so the next thing showed up in my life. And the Facebook group. There's so many people, especially this like COVID thing going on right now, that are suffering. They don't know how to deal with their emotions, what's going on in their businesses, their jobs, just being at home. There's a lot of stuff, their thoughts and their feelings, like how to manage all that stuff right now. And so that opportunity opened itself because as I begin to serve myself more, Tiffany, what end up happening is that energy, that place that I put myself in, begin to serve more people at a higher level that I could have never done before. Because I was always doing stuff out here all the time. But because now I do stuff in here, all this becomes affected because of it. And so they could also reach me at I have a group called Internal Awakening. And I was asleep for a very long time, for 39 years, almost like the biblical sense of 40 years wandering in the desert, right? And so
mm.
I was
Yes.
asleep for a very long time and my eyes opened up and I began to see and it changed everything for me. My whole world opened up and doing like masterminds now and talking to politicians and going to like public events with like chief of police and getting invited to go to town hall meetings and things like that where I never thought I had a choice before
Mm,
and I didn't
mhm.
realize suffering was a choice and I didn't realize that but behind that choice means I could choose something different also that I don't need to keep choosing the things that I don't want and to show people there's a different way to live. And so this thing chose me and I just go towards it every day.
I love that you say that this chose you. I feel kind of the same about this web show because like I told you, it definitely started out as just a favor to a few friends, and now all of a
Mhm.
sudden here I am 9 months later. So
Mhm.
I totally understand what you mean when you say this chose me. Um, but you can tell how much sincerity there is in your story, in your passion for this business of yours, to help others wholeheartedly. I mean, you're so philosophical while you talk. Like I can't help but just sit here and listen to you. That's probably why your podcast and other items are just so popular because you are someone that people want to listen to. Like you just have that voice, that demeanor. I can totally see that. Um, what do you think is your most memorable moment so far through this journey of yours? Besides, overcoming your obstacles. I know that you've had to have helped so many people by now. Um, and are just looking forward to helping so many others. But do you have a favorite memory or point in time where, you just solidified that feeling that this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
It's gonna sound kind of maybe dark, but my
Oh.
suicide was
Oh.
my most precious moment because I had to learn how to die in order to learn how to live. And so that's the moment that I remind myself of often, that I got to go back to when I think something's happening, right? I take a step back now, because one of the things that opened up to me was meditation. And faithfully, I've done that for the past like 3.5 years.
Okay.
And I think something's happening. I take a step back, just breathe, don't react to it. Just observe the situation, and it unfolds itself. It shows itself to me. I see myself through the situation. All situations, if you want to say that, in a sense, show you who you are if you don't react right away. And
Mm.
so it's taught me so much about myself, and it's never, like the name of the podcast is The Way to the Top. We do a broadcast and then we turn it to a podcast, but it's
Yeah.
never about reaching the top, right? It never is, because you don't spend very much time up there. You go up there, take a few pictures, breathe in the good air, like feel good, like you made it. I did this, right? But it's the
Yes.
process. It's the process. And once you learn what's involved in that process, who you have to become, because it's all about becoming first. And then all the other stuff is icing on the cake, right? The nice home and the stuff, you actually understand what that stuff is once you become, and then you can apply that process to other areas of your life, your marriage, with your kids, your relationships, with your job, with yourself. So the way to the top is about the process, the inner education that takes place. And this isn't something that people say, okay, like I don't need help, or not willing to ask for help, but everybody needs help. And if they say they don't, they're lying to themselves,
Mm.
because there's just certain things you can't find out without other people showing you.
It's absolutely true. It is true. I feel like there's still such a stigma when it comes to asking for help, especially when it comes to mental health. Whether in the military or in the civilian world, there's still that where they kind of are just like hesitant about it. But then those that take that step, that take that chance on themselves, because that's honestly all it is. It's not so much taking a chance on the services, but a chance on themselves.
Mhm.
And it once they do that, oftentimes they find out that it's what they needed all along, and they should have done it sooner. Um, so I know you mentioned that you were able to do the event in January, that, kind of catapulted into you doing the broadcast and whatnot. Um, Unfortunately, COVID happened not too long after that. So I'm assuming that despite beyond the broadcast and whatnot, which I'm is online and through the podcast and whatnot, your business is probably very dependent on being able to do public speaking events. Is that fair to say?
Yes and no. And, maybe make a bold statement, but COVID's probably the best thing I think that could have happened, because it was a wake up call to people that were living the wrong way. Outside of
Mm,
people dying, it's a terrible tragedy in itself.
yes.
But then you get past that and look at what's going on. People are being given an opportunity to look at themselves, because a lot of people are being home now more.
Yes.
It made me think outside of the box. Okay, I wasn't great at social media. I didn't really like it. I engaged with it on a surface level,
Yeah.
the technical stuff of like looking at things, but I realized there's the value with things like Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, the real value in these things.
Yes.
And it made me, do you remember the game? I can't remember what it was called, but had 3 dots, then 3 dots, and 3 dots. So it was a row of 3 dots in a row,
Mhm.
and you had to connect the dots without going over the same line.
Oh, oh gosh,
You had to
I
like
know
some
what you're
kind of like
talking about.
puzzle or something.
Somebody will put it in the comments, and then we'll be able to see it later.
But it was like that. The only way that you could solve that equation was you had to think outside the box. So you had to draw the
Mhm.
line outside of the box in order to connect all the dots. And that's
Yes.
what the COVID really helped me to realize is it made me step outside of my comfort zone. And there would have been no other way to do it if this particular situation didn't happen. So I have a choice. We go back to that suffering's a choice thing. The COVID happened, and I could choose how to look at it. I could choose as an opportunity, or I could choose as it's something bad. And
Yeah.
so I choose to see all of the things that happen in life to be good because it's a chance to learn about yourself. It's a chance to grow and to move through those situations. And it's been a great thing. Without it, I would still be in that old mindset of doing things the old way. So
Okay. No, I absolutely can understand what you're coming where you're coming from with that. As horrible as it has been on small businesses as far as them having to close down and whatnot, there is that light at the end of the tunnel where it helped them, like you said, go out of their comfort zone, learn new things. Maybe they weren't online before, but now they are, and their business is booming a lot more because of it. Had COVID not happened, the shutdowns not happened, they may not have adventured into those worlds on their own. So, and of course, the time with family. I mean, yes, homeschooling my two kids is something that I don't know I would have done on my own, uh to decide to do it on my own without, the shutdowns happening and whatnot. But now that I've had that opportunity, it's something that I know I would have never been able to experience, and now I love that I had that opportunity. I love that I'm there teaching my son how to read and going through math with him. And the baby's doing preschool online, so I love watching him dance to the songs on the computer while he's interacting with his friends and whatnot. It's a different world, but at least I'm there for them all day. um and whenever they need me, and I'm very grateful for that as a mom. It's always been my dream to be a stay-at-home mom, and now COVID's kind of made that happen for me. Not on my timeline, but it happened. So, and I know that's got to be a similar story for a lot of people out there who, unfortunately had to lose their jobs or quit their jobs due to COVID restrictions. Then, of course, there's people like you that had businesses already pretty much established that, now COVID came and you have to figure out where do we go from here. 2020 was definitely a roller coaster of a ride of emotions, of what's going to happen next. And I'm certainly looking forward to what 2021 has to offer,
mhm,
especially because I refuse to label it just numbers. 2021, it's 2021. This is the year to win because, as good as COVID could have been for some people, it was not good for everyone. So that's why I always put out in the beginning of the show that I'm proclaiming that no matter what happened during 2021, this year is going to be better no matter what. Oh my goodness. Um you have such an amazing story. And I love how honest you are about it, how upfront you are about it, willing to share it. There's oftentimes where people have a story, but they're very reluctant to share it with other people. And I know that that is a blessing for so many people out there who may have had somewhat of a similar story or close to it, especially those who may have attempted suicide themselves, or contemplated it and whatnot. So I want to thank you for having that courage to share your story and then turn it into something where you can benefit so many people.
yeah, thank you. I find that being vulnerable in this doesn't mean that okay, all of a sudden things are just like honky dory all of a sudden, but it's just
Yeah.
one day at a time, right? You win today. Winning today makes tomorrow easier to win. but being vulnerable set me free, and I'm just getting better at being vulnerable every day. And so, it's just this process, right? Because when you share your stuff, it kind of helps people share their stuff and, get that monkey off of your back.
Mhm.
Because when you begin to share over time, what ends up happening is there's nothing left to share and you're fully free. You're no longer fighting with yourself inside anymore. And you're kind of just like learn to be one with yourself and the good part of yourself. And unfortunately, the bad parts of yourself, you learn to just like acknowledge it on some level, but you don't engage with it like you used to. And so it's just showing up with yourself every day and having these kind of talks. If you can't do them yourself, you come to platforms like yours where you can listen to people have conversations.
Absolutely. So if you are just joining us, one, we are not live, and for those of you who are used to being live, I'm sorry. I'm away at military duty doing something in the woods. Just pray for me, if anything, that I survive. But beyond that, I wanted to make sure that the people I had scheduled for their interviews still had that opportunity to share their stories with you, their businesses with you, their lives with you. So thankfully, they were willing to pre record their episodes. If you are stopping by to watch this while it broadcasts, please like, share, do a watch party, leave comments below letting us know you stopped by to watch, what your favorite part of it was. Um, any questions that you might have for Letroy or whatnot, we will definitely make sure to keep up with the comments. I will keep catch up with everything when I get back. But his contact information should be in the description of the video upon broadcast. So please contact him at any of his websites. I've been showing them on the screen throughout the video today, but here they are one more time. If you have um an opportunity to check out his podcast, The Way to the Top, and listen in on what he's doing. And he does have a Facebook group, like you mentioned, Internal Awakening. That if it's anything as insightful as this short video has been, then it's definitely worth your time to look into, especially if you're looking for uplifting and just um soul beneficial information. Like that's all I can consider this information. Like just it's not just um spiritual, it's just your soul gets filled with so much joy and relief when you can connect with someone in this kind of way. And that's what I feel like you're supplying for people out there. So I want to thank you, Mr. Woods, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on my show. It is truly appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here. And you can also reach me at my name, Letroy Woods at Gmail. If you wanted just to shoot me an email and to continue this conversation and see what that actually looks like. But thank you for having me on the show. Every chance that I've learned that my mouth opens is a chance for me to be in service to others, to help the world, to be your better self every day, right? Like just to push through that every day, no matter like what your feelings are telling you, their emotions are like, no, I don't want to do it today, but learning how to push through that stuff. I'm willing to have any conversations with the people who are willing to talk. So
Absolutely. I look forward to catching up with you in a few months or whatnot, just to see where you are and how things are going. Please keep in touch, and feel free to post any updates you have on any events you have going on or whatnot on the page so that people can catch on and see if they want to, get in touch with you about joining in. You never know. So with that, I will leave you all for this episode. Remember that every episode, I take the time to remind you at the end that it is imperative, it is important, it is should be your number one priority to put your community first. You do that by shopping small and supporting your local businesses. Small businesses need help now more than ever, and the best way to do it is to spread the word that they exist. And of course, if you can, shop from them. Make them your number one choice and let the big stores have their way with other people. But you do your part in making sure your community stores and local business owners have another day of business. Okay, so with that, I will leave you all. Have a great day, everybody.